how do you change that culture to encourage leading up, to get that in people's minds of it's okay for you to see a problem that I didn't see. I mean, that's what the person on the line in Toyota could do. Is they're essentially saying, I see a problem that somebody who set this up didn't see or hasn't recognized. So how do we do that? Like, I mean, we talked about empowerment, but like technically, like, how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, from the Toyota side, I think it was removing blame.
Mm.
This is this person's fault, right? It's the system. So W. Edward Deming was the guy. He was an American guy who came up with these concepts, and Americans didn't buy into it. And the Japanese were like, "This guy's brilliant. Come over here and teach us this." And so he went over and he
I love
did.
that the leading up is in a position where the people around him weren't encouraging leading up, so he went somewhere
Well,
else.
he was it wasn't leading up that he was doing. It was just this idea of how to create a system that was total quality management and was always looking to improve at the ground level, right? But anyway, so there it was removal of the individual responsibility to make it more systemic, and we're doing that more and more in medicine, right? We recognize that most of the big problems that we have are system problems, and so I think that if we're gonna make greater impact, it's with leading up. It's not, "Hey, you've screwed this up. You've got this wrong." It's, "Here's what I'm seeing in our system that I think we can adjust or we could move. Here are the data that I'm getting from these different people that I think are really important to this decision." So that the system is, this person's in a position where they're not getting all the information, and you're bringing some of that information to them, right? As opposed to like, "Hey, you don't know what you're doing." So I think that's a part of it, okay? Is that you take the personal sting away from it, um, and as far as how to do it, there as far as leading up, that is, there are a couple of books, one of which I have. I mean, I've got both of the ones I'll mention, but and have read them. But one's this book, "Influencing Without Authority." That's by Alan
Mm.
Cohen and David Bradford, and I'll share a little bit of their thoughts. The other is called "Leading Without Authority" by somebody named a guy named Keith Ferrazzi. Um, and I'll include those in the description, show notes, and things. But as far as the influencing without authority, Cohen and Bradford talk about, they delineate what they call the approach to influencing your boss, and they have 4 things that they enumerate. One is see the boss as a potential ally or partner. I think that's important because a lot of times we see them as, at least hearing other people, I think having seen my parents in roles where they had a boss, like a legitimate boss, and who was over them and was very authoritative and these kind of negative relationships, it wasn't that that person was an ally or partner. They were and when you see sitcoms or other movies or things, the boss is hardly ever somebody who's on your side,
Mm.
right? And so if you don't see them as somebody who's on your side, you're not gonna try to help them, and leading up is about helping them. Fundamentally, leading up is about helping your leader to do a better job. So you gotta see them as a potential ally or partner or friend even, right? So that's number 1. Number 2 is understand the boss's world. What are their goals? What are their pressures? What are the things that they're having difficulties with? A lot of times we don't engage and try and understand what are the pressures and the problems that our boss is facing. It's just me, me, me. What are my problems? You're supposed to help me with my problems. And that's true, but the reality is they have issues they're dealing with. What are those issues? What are their goals? Because if we can understand those, then we can actually help them with those. And as we help them with their issues, then they will say, here's somebody who actually is helpful. And then we gain influence with them, right? The third thing that Cohen and Bradford list is be aware of the resources or currencies, that's the word they use, you already have and can acquire.
Hmm.
And again, that gets to how can you make their job easier? And how can you not be a drain on them? What do you already have that you can activate to achieve what you need to achieve, which then will help them achieve what they need to achieve? Or what are the things that you have at your disposal that they may not realize that you can help them with to achieve other things, right? And then the fourth thing is pay attention to how your boss wants to be related to. So this gets into some of that cultural stuff I was talking about earlier. In Southeast Asian honor cultures, saving face is really important. You don't just go up to them and say, "Hey, you screwed this up royally," in the middle of group, right? Or even in private. You have to. It's a very nuanced approach. Whereas in Silicon Valley, in a certain organization, not all organizations in Silicon Valley by any stretch, but in certain organizations in Silicon Valley, it is hash it out right there in front of everybody. So it depends on how that person wants to be related to, and it always needs to be respectful. You know, get their perspective, share yours, but do it in a manner that's really respectful. So those are four things that Cohen and Bradford really delineate again in what they call the approach in this book, Influencing Without Authority. For me, as I've thought about how I've influenced without authority for most of my career or even my life, I guess, it's it's always, I mentioned this earlier, it's always been predicated on relationship because we can't influence people unless they trust us, and they won't trust us unless we have a relationship with them. And so it's getting to know people, spending time with them, to Cohen and Bradford's things, understanding their pressure points and what they're facing. How can you alleviate that in whatever way you can? How can you not add to it in some form or fashion? I think all those things are things that I've done